I'm Cordell Sims, reentry consultant, motivational speaker, author, founder, owner of On the Inside Reentry Academy. I've been to prison 5 times, county jails 4 times. Same type of lifestyle I live. Grew up in a poverty neighborhood. My mom was on crack. Father wasn't nowhere around.
Yeah, right now we're in Chicago, Illinois at Cook County Division 11, speaking to the participants at the Cook County Jail. We got entrepreneurship workshop, we got vision board, we got goal setting, we got parenthood, all led by formerly incarcerated individuals. It's about 8 or 9 of us here on today, so we're here to make impact and also to be able to inspire the men upon their release, they can be successful as well.
This is actually for my vision when I got out of prison, to come back and give people the game, like how to be successful. And it's really all about having a vision. That's what I do in the workshop. Talk about having a vision for yourself, creating vision boards, how to set the goals to accomplish the vision. First time you get incarcerated, you should be preparing for your release. What's the vision I got for my family? What's the vision I got to be a career? All the times I was running in and out of prison, I ain't have a vision for myself. The only vision I seen was me going back to the block, hustling, selling crack, and I'm right back locked up. So the only time I came out of prison with a vision and prepared with an actual plan, I ain't never been back. The participants can't say, oh, you don't know what it's like. Like, yeah, I know what it's like. We can relate more. So that's my whole 2 goals, was bring hope for those on the inside and showcase the talent of successful formerly incarcerated educators.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and do can and will be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to a free attorney. Knowing your rights, would you like to speak to me? No. And that is it. That is your only response. Oftentimes people find themselves in an interrogation room and they're speaking to law enforcement without legal representation. And doing so, anything you do, anything you say, oftentimes is recorded, then it's played in front of a jury. You do not want to find yourself in that position. Think about it. If law enforcement had sufficient probable cause, they wouldn't be speaking to you. They would fill out their probable cause affidavit, and then they would make the proper arrest. They're speaking to you because they're hoping that you incriminate yourself or your words will be twisted. So do not be in that position where you're speaking to law enforcement without legal representation.
What would be one word to describe this journey?
Heartache.
Enriching.
Gratitude.
Unapologeticness.
Hope.
Elevating. Passion.
Resilience.
I say transformation.
Determination.
Intention.
My word is compassion. Rebirth.
Intentional.
It's bigger than just walking down your probation and parole. It's changing your mindset, lifestyle, and never returning to prison again. It's the Reentry journey with Cordell Sims.
Welcome back to another episode of the Reentry Journey. I am your host, Mr. Cordell Sims, and today our guest,
Kaysia Earley Esq.
It's been a few years since she was on here the first time, but just to talk a little bit about your journey, our guest today, I remember, I'm just going to tell you how far she has come along in her journey, right? She went from egg dye for the Kool-Aid in the water. You thought I forgot, didn't you?
Yes!
To washing the clothes in the tub, stomping on them, wringing them out. To going from Miami, your mom let you go up to Washington, D.C. at 14 years old.
Yeah.
Going up there, experiencing, really start to really experience life. You had one goal. You knew your goal. You knew what you wanted to be. And no matter what you went through, you got to college the first 2 years, you enjoying it, the college life, and you went through some things in college and found yourself incarcerated. And it was almost on the verge of where you was going to miss your graduation to becoming, every time I look on the TV and I'm skimming through when I have the time and I'll be watching Court Cam, and then I turn on Court TV, and there
Yeah.
you are doing your thing. And I always smile because I know your journey, and I just must applaud you for all the work that you're doing, the work that you've done, and to stick through despite having to face incarceration and still accomplish your dreams of what you knew you wanted to do all along. So welcome back to the reentry journey, Miss Kaysia Earley. Welcome to the reentry journey. We're glad to have you back.
Listen, that has to go into the introduction Hall of Fame. That was the best introduction. Because like you took it back from the beginning, my hood stories. I know your listeners probably saying, whoa, what are they talking about? The egg dye and the water and stomping on the clothes like grapes, all of that. And then all the way to the awards, the accolades. God is truly amazing. And I'm so excited that we're here so we can just break it down because there's no excuse, no matter what. Single parent household, poverty, incarceration, death in the family. There's no excuse. If you want to make it, you better take it. That's it.
Man, you want to make it, you better take it. Y'all
better take
y'all
it. By
tuning in,
force.
y'all better write that down.
Come on.
You want to make it, you got to take it.
By force.
Say by force. Yeah.
That's in the word though. That's scripture. That's biblical. Everything. Yes. So I'm excited and it's good to see you. It's definitely been a few years that we connected, but we stayed in contact and we are still on the same path of educating. So thank you for utilizing your platform to educate the people. I'm forever grateful to you.
For those that's tuning in, this might be the first time they might know you. I don't know how, especially if they in this field. I don't know how.
Right.
But please let them know who you are.
Of course. My name is Kaysia Earley, top criminal defense attorney here in South Florida. I've been practicing law. It'll be 10 years actually this September. Primarily criminal defense.
10 years.
10 years. Yes. Can you believe it?
Wow.
So I started off as a public defender in a juvenile division, started my own law firm 2 years later. And since that time, I have tried over 100 jury and non-jury trials to verdict. And of course, I've heard we, the jury, find the defendant not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. And in addition to doing that, I am in the community. My goal is to teach people about their constitutional rights so that when they interact, not if, but when they interact with law enforcement, they can make it home safe. That is the goal. Arrive alive, make it home safe. And a mother, a wife, and a woman of God. Wear many hats, many roles, but it's just my goal to make sure that the stigma that is attached to a person who has been previously incarcerated is diminished and that we're not judged on our past, but what we've been doing for the years come and the years to come. So yeah, I'm excited to be here. So prior incarcerated, future political aspirations, attorney, all of that.
So some people might not know of you, but I guarantee they heard about the T.R.A.P. cards. I don't care what they say. I know they heard about the T.R.A.P. cards.
Yeah,
Can you
the
break down T.R.A.P. cards for us?
Okay, so T.R.A.P.s, I started T.R.A.P.s back in 2016, and it started to catch on the past couple of years. Actually, it was during the pandemic where everyone was just trapped in their houses, right? But T.R.A.P.s is basically your basic constitutional rights. It's on a card this size of 5x8 because the goal was to put it on your visor. You get pulled over, you pull it down, and you read it verbatim. And also, you're supposed to memorize it, really, because these are your basic constitutional rights. And everyone talks about, oh, I got a First Amendment right to speech or a Second Amendment right to bear arms. All of our constitutional rights are important. But the main constitutional rights that you really want to know are your 4th, 5th, and 6th. They're in order. So let's start from there. So it's T.R.A.P.S. And the reason I came up with this acronym was because the criminal justice system and the laws were meant to trap the bad guys, right?
Right.
So if they're trying to trap the bad guys, but you don't know the law, you are going to fall victim to this trap. And this is what the bills were passed in the Clinton era, especially in the Reagan era. This war on drugs and mass incarceration bill that was passed with Bill Clinton, who later came out to the NAACP, by the way, and apologized, but the damage was already done. We're going to talk about that later. Okay. So T.R.A.P.S, real simple. T stands for don't get tricked. An officer will, can, and they do legally lie to you to obtain incriminating information. So do not get tricked. R stands for be respectful. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Arguing on the side of the road with an officer who is armed and dangerous is not a position you want to be in. Let your attorney fight, cross-examine them in court, not in your vehicle. That's the A. TR. A stands for you have the right to a free attorney. And that's called a public defender if you can't afford one, private attorney if you can. The only difference is they have more cases, but they all have to pass the bar. P stands for never, ever give permission for an officer to search your house, your car, or your belongings. But you just cannot say, oh, don't search me. You have to say, I do not consent to this search. Once you utilize legal terminology, the officer is going to know that you know your legal rights. So they're going to err on the side of caution. They're going to be careful because they know that you are intelligent and wise with your legal knowledge. And last but not least, S, silence is golden. Please remain silent. Don't have a conversation. You cannot ever, ever talk yourself out of an arrest. And we see it time and time again. And what do these officers do? They play your interrogation tape in court. You look different, you look disheveled, you look unprofessional, you look unpolished, and you look like a liar in front of the jury. And they're going to use your words against you and secure a conviction. The S is your Fifth Amendment rights, because you always hear, I plead the Fifth. That means you plead from self-incrimination. So why are you telling on yourself? Why are you helping them with their investigation? And think about it. If officers had sufficient evidence, sufficient probable cause to be exact, to arrest you, they would just go ahead and fill out their probable cause affidavit and get an arrest warrant, right? They don't have enough. That's why they want to talk to you. So, I try to just simplify it, because as lawyers, we utilize a lot of legal terminology because we go to law school. We have to know the statute, the case law. But the average citizen, they don't have time to read that. So I wanted to find a simple way. T.R.A.P.S. Know it, share it, help someone. And, we can even and equal those scales of justice when we fight back with this and not that.
Exactly. What would you say is one of the out the traps is one of the biggest thing that people have a hard time following out of traps? Is it
hands down R? It's the R.
The R.
And here's why. I get a lot of pushback with that too. You know how many seminars I do? At least 4 to 5 seminars a week talking about traps. I go to the juvenile detention centers. I go to the universities. The most pushback I get is the R, and here's why. Officers, first of all, there's a lot of great officers out there. Let me just start off by saying that. I have family members who are officers. So this is not a cop bashing segment, because I'm going to tell you right now, somebody break into my house and I got access to my gun, I'm calling 911, all right?
Straight up.
So straight up and down. And if I hear somebody screaming next door, I'm carrying, I'm calling 911 too. But being in this profession, I have seen some dirty, trifling, unethical, lying cops. So this is what they do. And I want your listeners to listen. Oh, by the way, stick a pin in that real quick. I want to give you a shout out. Here's why. I get a lot of mail from clients that's incarcerated from all over. I don't know if I haven't told you, and I just thought about it. They watch the podcast that we did like 4 years ago. And I didn't know that you were streaming in the jails, or they have access in the jails. And that was one thing that stood out to them was the R. And I'm going to go back to the loophole in the law. Resisting an officer without violence. You know what that is? That means you're talking back. Resisting an officer with violence, that means you did something physical. But when you start to talk back, that's a catch-all arrest. So they want to get you on something. And if they can't get you on nothing else, they're going to get you on that disrespect level, because all they got to do is do something to you. They got to push you wrong or squeeze your wrist wrong. And then the natural reaction, not the mens rea criminal intent, but a natural reaction is to be like, oh, that hurts. Oh, now you're flinching at me. Oh, resisting an officer without arrest. So here's what happens. Because I challenge these all the time. You may be innocent and you truly may not have resisted that officer without violence. But the problem is the collateral consequences that follows that. So what happens? You get arrested. You happen to be working. You missed your job. Now you got to bond out. Now you got to hire an attorney. Now you got to take time off to go to court. Now you got to sit in trial, because usually a misdemeanor trial takes 2 to 3 days, maybe a week. And you go through all that. The case is you're found not guilty. But look what you had to go through. All because this officer tried you. The officer was in the wrong, but because you resisted, you got these collateral consequences. And then that's on one end of the spectrum. On the other end, you have the ones that are real disrespectful. I'm talking about the ones who think they're about that life because they see what's glorified on television, and they think that they can one-up the officer, and they're in the wrong. But you can't tell them they're in the wrong because they don't even respect their mother. They don't respect anyone in a position of authority, including law enforcement. So now they get to resist an officer with violence. The officer has a body cam, and all the officer has to do is show that body cam to the jury in your worst state. Now you got a charge. So I got to take it back to the civil rights era. I don't know if you remember when Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and the NAACP and all of these civil rights organizations were preparing to stage the sit-in at these lunch counters that were segregated. What they had to do before they even actually sat in, they had to practice what would happen. So what they would do is they would go to these organizations, and they would sit at these fake counters within the organization, and they would have their friends and their colleagues hit them, smack them, spit on them. And they had to take it. They were practicing because they knew that the white man would do that to them. So when they actually executed their plan at the lunch counter and they were spat upon, they were slapped, they were kicked, if you realize they're just sitting there. And a lot of people are like, well, why are they so peaceful? I would have hit them back. That's what they wanted them to do.
Right.
Because they knew that if they hit them back, even though they were in the wrong, that they would be arrested, and it would collapse the plan of the civil rights movement to desegregate the schools, the lunch encounters, the bus. So what T.R.A.P.S is created to do is it's a practice, it's a blueprint, it's a guide. I'm telling you what works. I had experience on both sides of the criminal justice system. I know what works. I know the law. I know the elements that the prosecutors have to prove. So if their body cam is on and you're not doing anything because you already practiced, I'm going to restrain myself because in the back of my head, I'm going to get a lawyer and she's going to tear you up in trial. Guess what's going to happen? I'm going to play that body cam footage and the jury's going to be like, well, wait a minute, Mr. Officer, you were being really disrespectful. And that person just stood there and kept saying, yes, sir, no, sir. We got to fight back. If not, everything we're doing is in vain.
Right, because a lot of people, they as soon as they get pulled over or anything, they are already going on.
Attitude
already. What you pull me over for? Oh, dude, I've been there. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna sit here in front act like I wasn't. I was one of them. As soon as I hopped out the car on the police back in the day, man, what's your problem? You know. But yeah, I'm lucky I didn't get killed.
Even after I became a lawyer and I was cross-examining these cops, I was like that too. Like one time I got pulled over and I don't want to say I forgot that I wasn't a lawyer and I forgot I wasn't in court, but I'm so used to gaining authority over law enforcement in court because that's my courtroom. Okay. I'm asking the questions and you're going to answer them. And I'm going to cut you off if that's not what I asked. So when he rolled up on me, he was a little disrespectful. And I said, excuse me? I said, who are you talking to? Mind you, when I ask you who you're talking to, it's not because I don't know you're talking to me. That gives you the opportunity to correct yourself. And I had to snap out of it for a moment. I was like, oh, Kaysia, you're on the side of the road now.
Right.
You're not in court. So I was like, and he said, I'm talking to you. So I was like, oh. So I said, oh. I said, am I free to leave or are you going to write me a citation? And he says, do you know how fast you were going? And I said, am I free to leave or are you going to write me a citation? I didn't tell him I was a lawyer because I don't like to, I don't tell no one I'm a lawyer, you know.
Right.
You gotta keep that ace in the pocket.
Yeah, keep that.
But I'm gonna tell you something. I'm gonna tell you something though. He knew I was a lawyer, or he knew that I was in the law because his attitude shifted when I said that phrase. Am I free to leave or are you going to write me a citation? Free to leave is a trigger word for your Fourth Amendment right to be free from unreasonable search or seizure. Seizure means that you're holding me against my will. And if you're holding me against my will without probable cause, you are in violation of my constitutional rights. So we have to learn the law if we want to save a generation. Or we're always going to be, you know, I always say we have to stop being reactionary. You know why no one's marching right now? Because there's no televised police excessive use of force yet. So nobody marching.
So nobody marching.
So they only react to an event. I'm trying to get them to be proactive.
Mm-hmm. And
it's a shame. We just talked about this. Everything that's ignorant, everything that's sexualized is viral. T.R.A.P.S needs to go viral. Once T.R.A.P.S goes viral, we're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Look what we did. We don't have a civil rights era. We're in 2024. Ain't nothing happened since the civil rights era. We don't have leaders. You know why? Because everyone's interested in entertaining. No one's interested in educating. But guess what? Just like what you're doing, what I'm doing, I'm going to keep on doing it. I'm going to keep on doing it. I'm going to keep on going to the jails. I'm going to keep on going to the universities. I'm going to keep on educating my children and everyone I know, because you don't move for the masses. You move for the movement. And the movement is for change. And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's the R as well. Just because when I was dwelling on that question earlier today, I was just thinking about how many encounters I had, the numerous encounters I had with police officers that it was no sign of respect from me, which always made the situation worse.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time I talked so bad to a police officer, and I was on parole, and I was drunk. Man, and he called my PO. I went to see my PO, and they're like, "Yeah, we got a hit on you because we heard, first of all, what was you doing out late at night that way anyway. But on top of that, you disrespected the officer so bad." I see, yeah. But I was also thinking, it might be the S too, because a lot of people refuse. But to me, that coincides. If you don't have the respect, you ain't gonna be silent.
Well, the reason I said respect is the most important is because you lose your life over. That's the one you lose your life over, is the lack of respect, because you piss the cop off and he's a rogue officer or a racist cop or undercover. He'll kill you, right? Mm-hmm. So you usually won't lose your life over not remaining silent. You lose your freedom. But the R is the one that we have to teach, because it's the hardest as well. Because our natural reaction is to be respectful once I get respected. But we got to change that, because you have to put in your mindset. Think about that lunch counter that I just talked about. You have to practice not being respected, but still giving it. Because you got to think of the long run. And the long run is, I need to get home safe. I got you afterwards. Here's what people are supposed to do that they don't do. And I'm going to tell you how it works. If you're ever disrespected by a law enforcement officer, any disrespect, I don't care how small you think it is, I don't care how large, you have to file an internal affairs report. And this is why it's important. Even if nothing happens from it, every cop that I have on the stand, or before they get on the stand, I depose them, right? If I find out that they have even one IA report filed against them, I don't care if the IA report ended with no findings. It's still a report.
Right.
This is how the cross-examination goes, and this is how I attack his credibility, especially when it's a cop word against my client word. I say, officer, you had an IA report filed against you 2 years ago, correct? Yes. And he'll probably say, yeah, but it was closed out. That's not what I asked you. You have an IA report filed against you, yes or no? Yes. And in that IA report, you were accused of being disrespectful to a civilian. Isn't that correct? Yes. And after that IA report, you did not attend any additional training on how to speak with civilians. Isn't that correct? No, I did not. I didn't have to. Now they get cocky, but what they fail to realize is they just fell into my trap. And my trap was to show the jury he just had a report 2 years ago that he didn't know how to interact with a civilian. He didn't take any training classes. So that problem that he had has not been resolved. And he's being, and in this case, he claims that my client was disrespectful to him. I have to attack his credibility because he's up there in his law enforcement t-shirt and he's testified multiple times. So he knows this game, but what he fails to realize is I did my homework on you. So I need the civilians to file these IA reports. You see a law enforcement officer being disrespectful at a simple traffic stop, you get his badge and number, and you file a report. We have to put the power back in our hands.
And when you say file a report, how do you go about filing a report if I'm a civilian and this happens to me?
In every jurisdiction, in every district police office, you just go straight to the city. So if, let's say it happened in Chicago, Illinois, and in a particular county, you go to that county where that officer is stationed. As long as you have that officer's name or even if you have his tag, let's say you're driving and he cuts you off recklessly because he thinks he owns the road. Hey, where's your blinker? You're not above the law.
Right.
And what if he puts your life in danger and he doesn't care? You get that tag, you go to that district and you say, hi, where's your internal affairs office? I would like to file a complaint on an officer. I don't have his full name, but I have the vehicle that he was driving. I have the tag number, and he was driving so recklessly that he almost, got into an accident or something. You go, every office has it. And you make sure you get a copy of that report. Okay. Make sure. So we have to, come on now, we smarter than this. This ain't 25 years ago when internet wasn't out. Google it. You Google everything else. I mean,
straight up.
We got to get tough skin. If you asked me that question 5 years ago, I would have been holding their hand. I'm not holding nobody's hand because the information's out there. The information's out there. Y'all don't want to protect your children. You don't want to protect your life. You don't value your life. You don't value your education. We're going to repeat history. And history goes back to slavery. They didn't want us to be educated. Everybody said, oh, I couldn't live in slavery day. I would have did this. I would have did that. They weren't educated. So they didn't know that there was power in numbers, that they could come together in unity and fight a force that was bigger than them.
Right.
Education
people say that they're not taking in consideration. If you was back there, you wouldn't have everything that you have now. Not even the mentality. You might think you might have the mentality that you have now, but you wouldn't not doing them times.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But speaking of slavery, I can't stand when people say, oh, well, slavery was abolished. You better read the Constitution again. Okay.
Right.
No involuntary servitude, comma. There's not a period. So that means there's an exception to the 13th Amendment. Slavery has not been abolished. And it's in our face to the point where it's laughable, right? The garments for the jail mirrors the same garments as the slaves. The chains and shackles, they shackle them the same way as they did the slaves. They still have the labor, paying them pennies on a dollar a day as they did. Well, they paid some of them, after there was an exception to the rule, but it's still there. And we going on life thinking, oh, we good, while the number of incarcerated African Americans keep climbing year after year,
Year after
year, and we sitting back, laughing, entertaining, drinking it up. Keep on drinking it up. Keep on living a life.
Man, it's crazy because you know the numbers for a black male, African American male, we already know the numbers have been soaring over the years. But over the last 10 years, we seeing a big increase in numbers of African American women that are being incarcerated.
Yeah, I think the last I checked, and I don't really follow the numbers because it could be skewed. Like, what's the basis of your number? You're going around the jails, and 25% of the population, the minorities, are incarcerated in the United States versus the entire world. So the minorities, 25%, even what was it? Over 1 million minorities incarcerated as of 2020 or 2021. Over 1.8 million. It's probably grown. I know. Yeah, so it's like, y'all, I'm giving you free legal advice. I broke it down in the simplest terms, and y'all not taking heed.
I want to go back to the 13th Amendment because this is a question I've always had. Because we know that the slavery exists inside of the correctional institutions, inside the prison system, right? But the law doesn't say unless sent to prison. It says unless duly convicted of a crime. So could that mean, this has been my question, could that mean that even if I don't go to prison, but say I'm on probation or parole, I've been convicted of a crime, am I still subject, could I be subject to the slavery?
Probation, parole, you're still incarcerated. Think about it. You're still subject to the terms of the criminal justice system. And you know how many people violate probation? Here's why probation is good, kinda, because you kinda free, right?
Right.
But violation of probation, you don't get a jury trial because you already had your bite at the apple with your underlying charge, right? So here's how violation of probation works. And I had a case 4 years ago, 5 years ago. My client was arrested. He was on probation. He was arrested for a new law, aggravated battery, kidnapping, all these charges. We go to trial on the new law. He's found not guilty. So now he still has his violation of probation because you violate probation just on an arrest. It doesn't say that the arrest has to be validated and you have to be convicted, which it should. But you know why it doesn't say that? Because of the lawmakers. It needs to be changed. I was so mad at this outcome. Look what happened with this case. So we fight that new law. He's found not guilty by a jury of his peers. Then we have the VOP. The violation of probation is before a judge, not before a jury. And the judge in the state of Florida, I'm only licensed and barred in the state of Florida. So the judge in the state of Florida has to determine whether or not his violation was willful and whether or not it was substantial. The judge determines on a bench trial that his violation was willful and substantial. Now, make it make sense. How is his violation of probation willful and substantial for a charge that he got arrested for, but he was found not guilty? The judge sentenced him to 10 years.
Wow.
Talk about due process. When I tell you, that case bothered me.
That was a hate move right there.
That case bothered me because I said, Your Honor, but before he sentenced him, he was debating. He said, if I reinstate probation, I think he had maybe 4 years to go or something like that. I don't know. He said, if I reinstate probation, he'll just do 4, but I don't think he learned his lesson. Like he's analyzing. I said, I understand that, Your Honor. I said, but he violated probation on a charge that he was found by a jury of his peers not guilty. Right. And if he was arrested, you're still innocent until proven guilty. So reinstate probation or give him credit time served because he was already incarcerated for 2 years or something like that.
Okay.
The system doesn't work. And this is another reason I'm like, now that I found out the law, and I've been trying so many cases in such a short amount of time, I'm like,
yeah, I'll be seeing you every time I turn around. You showing another paper, bam, charges dismissed, bam, charges dismissed. Oh, you out here killing it. I'm thinking to myself,
okay.
Well, They finna have to get her up out the county. They gonna say,
That's what they're trying to do. That's what they're trying to do. I went to jail, I think a couple months ago, and the bailiff, not the bailiff, the correctional officer, he was sitting at the bench. He said, "Miss Earley, who you taking out next?" I said, "Everybody." Everybody's getting out. Everybody getting a second chance.
I be seeing you put every time I look up, I see it. Bam, another one.
Look. I'm like the Oprah of the criminal justice system. You get out of jail. You get out of jail. Everybody gets out of jail. Just don't mess up. I have a rule. My clients know this. I'm not representing you twice. You can't pay me to represent you twice. You know why? Because what we're not going to do is pull me away from someone else that needs me. Because you got off, or because you beat the system, and Miss Earley is good, and I'm about to pay her. I'm about to go back in the game, and then I'll just put this aside. No, you're not. I had this one client. His mother called me. I got him out. He was facing life. I got him out, and the following year he got back in. The mother called me. She said, "Miss Earley, no, I'm not calling you to represent him. I'm just calling you because he already said you're not going to represent him." But I said, "Well, there's nothing for us to talk about. I can't be his ghost attorney. We're not doing that. We're not advocating breaking the law. But I will fight for you. You best believe that. I will leave my heart on the podium. You better believe that until I step away from the game and do something more, because there's more work for me to do. And I believe the next step is to change these unjust laws, because like you said, okay, I know I'm going on a tangent, but I'm going to answer your question about probation. You're still incarcerated because you're still tied to the system. So this is what I do. When I see that my client has fulfilled all the terms of his probation, I file a motion to terminate probation early all the time. I don't wait to the halfway point. Because if you fulfilled all the terms of your probation, I'd rather file the motion, set the hearing, and ask the judge than not ask at all. I'd rather you tell me no, and then I come back 6 months later, we're going to file it again until the judge gets tired of me. And until the judge gets tired of me filling up his docket, finally, they're going to say yes. Get off of probation as soon as you can.
I'm glad you said that, because so you're saying that if you complete the terms of your conditions of your probation, you able to file to get off early.
What you talking about? Of course, this is Florida. The statute in Florida, the statute in the state of Florida states that you can file for a motion to terminate, rescind, or even modify the terms and conditions of your probation at any time. That is the statute. That is the case law. It doesn't say substantial compliance. It doesn't say after you reach the halfway point. I just did one. If you look on my Instagram, I just did a few posts before the most recent one. He got off.
I did. I've seen it.
He had 5 years. I think he had 5 years. And actually, I'm gonna say this because I did it. He called me up. He's like, "Miss Earley, I just want to let you know I'm doing good. I'm getting married." I said, "Oh, congratulations." He said, "Yeah, I'm getting married." I said, "You know what I'm gonna do for you?" I said, "I'm gonna file a motion to terminate your probation." I said, "That's gonna be your wedding gift." He said, "Really, Miss Earley?" He said, I didn't reach the halfway point." I said, "You didn't have to." I said, just say what I tell you to say, which is the most substantial information. You're getting married. Let the court know you haven't been into any trouble. You paid. You know what the court did? Not only did the court terminate his probation, he had fees. The court waived all those fees. Now go ahead and live your life. Live your life. Oh.
Yeah. And I don't think a lot of people understand that and know that.
They don't, which is why if you notice on my post, because I share these tidbits, but I back it up with the law. You think the law, first of all, a judge has to be neutral, so the judge can't tell you. Prosecutors are against you, so the prosecutors ain't going to tell you. So you know who's going to tell you? Kaysia is going to tell you, because most private attorneys are not going to tell you. They want you to pay for that information. But guess what? Kaysia got enough clients. I don't need any clients. I'm going to tell you for free. I'm going to tell you because I don't want you in the system. I don't want you to get caught up like my other client got caught up. I want you out. I want you to become successful. I want you to live your best life and show everybody, look what I did, even with the record. Now what? Out here owning businesses and even with my past criminal history. So we can do it.
Right. So how many How many people get mad at you for saying, "Nah, I don't double back. I don't represent you twice. Now I got you, I got you off one time. That means you're
A
supposed to be out
couple,
here doing right."
but I tell them up front. Because what I do is I run a ministry as well. So
Okay.
as their attorney, on a monthly basis for my clients who can't bond out because they don't have a bond, Florida is very strict with not giving bonds for sex cases, murder cases, and certain type of cases. So most of my clients don't have a bond. I mail them a monthly wisdom. I give them encouraging words, and we pray together after I tell them about their legal advice. But I tell them up front, one of my first couple of meetings with them, I say, listen, when I get you out, because I'm believing by faith that I'm gonna get you out. You know, I make no promises though, you know, especially if the facts are bad, you'll get out eventually. But I say, I'm not gonna represent you twice. Right. So when you get out, live your best life. Live a life that's pleasing and acceptable to Christ. Live a life and be a productive member of society. But if you mess up, don't call me. Because I'm over here fighting for someone else. And in the past, like I said, almost 10 years, I've represented thousands. And the majority of my cases, I need to count them one day. I know it's over 300 dismissals, 400 dismissals, probably at this time. Most of my cases are not guilty verdicts. Look at all those lives. Change. So I will continue to work and educate at the same time.
Right. So with the 13th Amendment, are there any other laws that, I mean, it's probably, I know it's a lot that you know we really need to lock in on as well?
Well, the 13th Amendment is just a reminder that the criminal justice system is basically legal slavery. They can restrict your freedom. So that's just a reminder. But it goes back to traps, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th. The 4th, free from unreasonable search and seizure. The 5th, you have a right to not incriminate yourself. And the 6th, you have a right to counsel if your freedom is at stake. So everyone has a right to counsel, which is how the public defender's office was implemented because of Gideon v. Wainwright, where his freedom was at stake and he had to represent himself pro se. So those are your most important constitutional rights. Of course, the first one is good. Freedom of speech, freedom to assemble, which is how you are allowed to protest peacefully. But, you know, we can't just focus on that one. And you know what? Truth be told, right to bear arms is also an important one. I've been hitting up the range. Right.
So what about, what about the expungement part? Because I want to hit the range. Okay. I can't get no guns and
okay.
And my main concern about that is with the way I see the way the country is moving and the shifts that the country made. I'm kind of upset because I feel like I should be having the right, even though you know, whatever I did, whatever. You know, I feel like I'm naked out here because I can't protect myself because of me being a convicted felon.
So here's the thing. You would really have to contact an attorney that specializes in the restoration of your rights, right? Okay. Because it's not a simple process, but if you get your rights restored, it's not just only bearing arms, it's the voting, right? Mm-hmm. It's having that opportunity to have a voice. So you want to see if you can get your rights restored. And that's very important because this past 2 years ago, I ran for judge. And to me, that was the best experience. Come on now, formerly incarcerated.
Yeah. I seen that's how she's going for the judge.
She's still going. Just probably a higher position. Only God knows. But it shows you that had I been convicted, see, my adjudication was withheld. Had I been a convicted felon, I probably would not have been a lawyer. I wouldn't have been able to run for judge. So it's so many rights that they take away for that being a convicted felon. And that's another thing I do. Even if because all of my cases obviously don't end in a not guilty verdict or dismissal. Some of them I negotiate. And when I see, like, I have a case right now where my client was just dead wrong. It was a case of road rage. he stuck, a gun out at the red light because he thought that the person cut him off purposely, but the person really didn't know. Part of the interaction was caught on video from the lights. So cases like that, that's really bad. I'm not crazy enough to take it to trial and then set my client up for a bad position. So I just had a conversation with him. I'm like, listen, I'm going to negotiate with the prosecutor to see if I can get the adjudication withheld so you won't be a convicted felon, or even see if I can get a change of charge to a misdemeanor. So there's times where I have to wave the white flag and explain to my client, you don't want to gamble and go to trial because the facts are against you. It's too much evidence, overwhelming evidence. You will be convicted and you will serve time in prison. Or do you want to acknowledge the fact that, you know what, I messed up, I'll take a change of charge, or I'll accept the plea. But I try to make sure that the adjudication is withheld so that he's not a felon convicted and his restoration rights, his rights won't have to be restored. So definitely I would advise your watchers, your viewers to see about getting their rights restored. But a way that you can get that, you got to kind of prove that you've been a productive member of society and not just, okay, I finished my probation sentence, I want my rights back. No, because, at the same time, you have to show that you are, have been a productive member of society. So it's a process.
Okay. Yeah, because I'm definitely trying to get mine in Missouri. The vote, I got my voter right back in Missouri. In Missouri, once you get off probation and parole, you can vote. So I got that. I voted for the first time last year. For the first time in my life, I voted last year. But what I don't like is, like when I got off when they sent me the paper for my federal probation, it said you get your voters right restored in Missouri and Kansas. But the difference is I can't run for any type of public office in Missouri. Kansas you can, but in Missouri you can't. I want that law to change. I can see myself running for a public office.
But here's the thing. You know how many times I hear that, they want the laws changed, and it's a valid point, which is why what prompted me to run for judge, because I got tired of going before judges who, in my opinion, weren't knowledgeable of the law. And I'm sitting there fighting access to the record to show them, no, case law states this. And, my client is entitled to relief because of this. And this is the procedure. I'm like, well, if I'm teaching you, I might as well be in this position. And I'm feeling the same way about the law, simply because there's laws, in my opinion, that need to be changed. The people who make the law have never been incarcerated. The people who made the laws have never understood the impact and the collateral consequences attached to not only incarceration, but their extended family members. So this is why judges could give you 30 years without blinking an eye. And I'm not talking about mandatory sentences where they don't have discretion. I'm talking about they have discretion. They have a mitigation packet. They have the family asking the court for leniency, and they still give them 30 years, but they won't give a person who's similarly situated with a different skin complexion the same amount of time. Let's talk about that.
Exactly.
So
yeah, they will.
I'm really trying to figure out my next move, because these laws certainly need to be changed when it comes to victim rights. Okay. Yeah, I said it. And this is what I'm talking about. I do a lot of sex cases, right? And one thing I've noticed is women lie. And yes, I'm a woman and I said it. Y'all can save your mail. Y'all can save your comments because I said it. If you're upset, then a hit dog will holler.
Right.
So women lie, right? You know how many sex cases I had that I caught the female in the lie on the stand or in a depot, and I used it to impeach her on the stand. And after my client was found not guilty, they'll call the person up, or they'll put something out there through a third party that they was lying. But you just took my client through all that? Like, thank goodness he was found not guilty, but you just took my client through all that? So I think that some of the laws need to be changed when it comes to victims, because how are they a victim when my client has not been convicted of that? They should be called the alleged victim, because these are allegations. They have not been substantiated. So it's little things like that. Or personally, I believe that victims, if you want to be called that, should be subject to lie detector tests, when it comes to serious allegations, because here in Florida, I don't know about anywhere else. In Florida, if you're accused of a sexual battery and you have familial custody, meaning you're accused of sexual battery from your stepdaughter or your biological child, you're being held no bond. And I had a client who was accused of sexual battery, right? He was held no bond for 3 years. On the day of trial, they dropped the charges. But he took a lie detector test. It showed that he was honest. He had an alibi. He had everything. They still was going forward with the charges because she said it happened. But on the day of trial, you don't show up.
Oh, man.
To face the music. It's stuff like that. Listen, we can go on and on. So I feel like if you're gonna restrict my client's freedom, if you're not gonna give him a bond, then give her a lie detector test. Do something.
Do something, right?
Because females can cry at a drop of a dime. Do something.
Just
It's not right.
word.
Yeah, because see, if you don't do that, what you're doing is you're saying that he's innocent until proven guilty, but you're putting her rights above his. But the Constitution is supposed to trump any other rights. Victims don't have constitutional rights. Defendants do. Oh my goodness, I'm fired up. Excuse me.
Oh yeah, you giving the
Excuse
game.
me.
Bro, you giving the
Yeah,
game.
man, I got so much knowledge. I have so much knowledge when it comes to the system. So, yeah, I thank God for my incarceration period. I thank God because it gave me empathy for my clients too. Mm-hmm. I don't think I would be this zealous. I don't think I would be this passionate. You think I'm passionate now over the screen?
Oh,
it's called closing arguments.
Yeah, I'm about to say.
Pow, pow.
I can only imagine in the court. I'm gonna have to come down to one of the trials and check out the closing. So before we go, I really want to know what's your vision for you. What's next for you? I know you're reaching for the higher heights. We were talking about the judge. Is that's what's on your agenda?
No, never tell your enemy your next move. You're not my enemy, but I got watches. No. So my ultimate goal, honestly, is to make sure every civilian in the United States of America is equipped with their constitutional rights. That's number one. That's my goal. Cops have Miranda cards. They give you your rights. We should have a T.R.A.P.S card, right? So that's my number one goal. My next goal is to ensure that these laws are changed to uphold the constitutional rights of the defendants. Because if we do not protect their constitutional rights, it's going to make the prosecutor's job easier to convict. So I'm seeing an increase of the conviction rate in Florida solely because we don't have lawyers who are challenging the prosecutors. The prosecutors must prove beyond a reasonable doubt each and every element of the crime. But if you have lawyers who are not upholding their oath of office and not investigating the case and not doing their job, the system is going to crumble. So I'm making a call for more minority lawyers, a call for more minority prosecutors who can ethically look at a case and say, you know what, I'm not filing this. I'm a no info this case because it's not ethically right that I cannot present this case for conviction, or I can't prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt. We need more minorities in the criminal justice system. We have to even the scales of justice. We need more minority judges. So my plan for the future is to walk it and continue to push the scales of justice until it's equal. So I'm not going to end this fight. So as far as my political aspirations, I honestly don't know what I want to do. But I know one thing. I made my mark when I ran for judge because they were able to see, wait a minute, this girl, she got all she needed was 300 more votes because my opponent and I got 115,000, but she went to jail. If she could do that on her first run, she's going to be a force to be reckoned with on her next run. So stay tuned.
You know I'm going to be tuned in. So, I always ask this question. You already answered this before, but that was a few years ago, and it's been a lot. You done did a lot, and since then, and I don't know if the word changed or not, but over the last few years since our last episode, last time you was on here, if you had one word to describe the journey from that point up until now, what would that one word be and why?
Blessed. Still blessed. I'm telling you, still blessed.
Exactly.
Blessed. Because before we got on, I just had, sometimes I reflect on my life, my journey from, like you said, from the inner city, living in poverty, 2-bedroom duplex. My mother had 7 children, raising us by herself. And as you alluded to in the beginning, we didn't have a washing machine. And actually, I thought that was the norm, how you're supposed to wash your clothes. You put hot water in the tub, you put the clothes detergent, and you stomp on them like grapes. And then you squeeze it out, and then you hang them on a clothesline. We didn't have sugar. So we put the egg colorant and water and pretended we were drinking Kool-Aid. So these are the memories that I think about. And look how far I've come, to nothing, to incarceration, from the jailhouse to God's house to the courthouse. And everything in between, everything worked together for my good, because nothing stopped me. Not having a father didn't stop me. Not living in the ghetto stopped me. Not going to jail stopped me. Nothing is going to stop me. This fight continues, and I have enough energy to stay in the game.
Blessed.
Blessed.
That is, you know, that's God. That's
Yep.
God. I really appreciate you coming back on, giving us the game, giving us the knowledge. A lot of people needed to hear that. A lot of people, I think what you just said about every police officer has a Miranda card. Every person should have a TRAP card.
There it is. TRAP. Avoid the traps, arrive alive, make it home safely. And for your listeners, your viewers, everyone gets a free TRAP card. All you have to do is either go to my website, it's my first and last name.com, or Earley Law Firm, mylawfirm.com, Earley Law Firm, or all of my social media platforms. You DM me, you email me, tell me how many cards you need. Give me your address. You're going to get the actual card. It's not just applicable in Florida. It's all over, because these are your constitutional rights. It's not your state rights. So, you know, I have schools contacting me ordering 500 and they get it free. I can't practice in Arizona, but I send it, because this is what is important. And my contact information is on the front. Get some, share it, share the knowledge, save a soul.
And there you have it, right then and there. Y'all make sure y'all tap in and y'all reach out to her and get you some TRAP cards, because I got me some. My hand and pass, the first ones I got, I gave them to my family. The crazy part is I got my daughter's card the other day, because she's went to Florida for a vacation, and they just got back. And I had to go pick them up from the airport, and I took her car, and there it is. Sitting right there.
Wow.
Man, she still got it. So, you know, I think everyone do. I'm with you on that. I think everyone needs to have one, because you subject to get approached by an officer, pulled over, or whatever, at any given moment, whether you're doing something wrong or not. Yes. So, like I said earlier, I appreciate the work that you're doing. I appreciate you coming on, again, and giving us the game and giving us the knowledge. And man, I'm looking forward to continue watching you grow, watching your next steps. I'm gonna have to come down there and check out one of them trials instead of watching it on CourtTV.
I know, right? I'll see if I can get some cameras in there for you. Look, I want to see myself, because I don't even know when I'm in trial. I just transform into somebody else until I walk out the doors.
You in there on the mission. You in there having the business
all day. We not playing. Guns blazing. Pow pow. You can get it too.
Ain't no faking. I'm coming in. Yeah.
We ain't playing. We ready up in here. We ready.
All the time.
Look. That hood upbringing coming out of me. But we gotta fight. Seriously, we gotta fight. But I enjoyed this. I thank you so much. And until next time, we gotta keep on fighting.
Keep on fighting. And there you have it. Well, this is another episode of the Reentry Journey. For those of you who's going to be watching this on the inside, you know what I always tell you: don't let the limitations of your background reduce the height of your potential. Get you a vision, stay committed, and be consistent, and you can become what you want to become. Don't let nobody else tell you different. I want to say thank you to Kaysia for coming on, and giving us the game. And for everyone else, until next time, like she said, keep fighting. What would be one word to describe this journey?
Heartache.
Enriching.
Gratitude.
Unapologeticness.
Hope.
Elevating. Passion.
Resilience.
I say transformation.
Determination.
Intention.
My word is compassion.
Rebirth.
Intentional.